Hey fellow explorers, so we just returned from a trip to Las Vegas, and while it's not quite the Sin City that I remember, it's definitely getting better, but things still aren't what they were back in 2019 before the world went upside down. And so in this video, I'm going to tell you all about our trip, what the vibe was like, what the hotel prices are, food prices, crowd levels, and just generally what it felt like to be in Vegas. So you can either decide if you're planning to go, whether you should go or not, or you're just curious to be, Chris, what does Vegas really look like from someone who's been there? Everything Vegas today is what we'll be talking about. This was also the first trip I took with the Spunky Princess, our 2-year-old daughter, and so I'll share what it's like to travel as a family to Las Vegas, and I'll be taking your questions at the end, and of course giving away a yellow production shirt as I always do on these live streams. All right, so first things first, let's talk about hotels. We stayed at the Bellagio at the center of the strip, and the Bellagio is one of the reasons why we went. They recently renovated their rooms, and we wanted to check out their renovated rooms. The trip we just came back from, we were there Thanksgiving week, the kind of 4 days up to Thanksgiving. We drove back to Orange County, California, our home on Thanksgiving Day, drove out to Vegas on the Monday prior to Thanksgiving. We had originally planned to go to Vegas on Veterans Day weekend, and the room rates were like super insane. The Bellagio rooms were going for $500 a night Veterans Day weekend, the 3 days, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, were like crazy talk, so let's go ahead and pick a different week. So we picked Thanksgiving week. Bellagio, we got rooms for $130 a night, which is pretty inexpensive. The week before Thanksgiving is typically one of the least busy weeks all year in Vegas, but this was the busiest Thanksgiving week I've seen in Vegas, and we'll talk more about the crowd levels as we go forward. But related to prices, you should know if you're going to Vegas, the hotel prices, they're all really expensive. And even though conventions aren't really back, and even though international travel isn't really back, the hotel room prices seem to be higher than they were ever before for the premium center strip properties. So do plan to drop more money on hotels, on parking, on resort fees, because those things are all just up and up and up. Now, we drove to Vegas, and we drove to Vegas from Orange County, California, the home of Disneyland, on a Monday at 2:30 p.m. Good news is the driving was pretty good, although the bad news is, traffic has returned again. So it took us some extra time, like an extra hour, to get out of the Los Angeles Basin up to the Cajon Pass on the 15 to LA. But after that extra hour of traffic delay, it was clear sailing the rest of the 3.5 or so hours to Vegas. We stopped in Barstow, as we usually do, for dinner. Often In-N-Out Burgers, our stop there. We stopped at Popeyes this time. We got into the Bellagio at 9 p.m. and we self-parked. There were more cars in the parking garage than I've ever seen at the Bellagio. And I think this is due to the fact that more people are driving into Vegas than they ever were before. Back in the day, more people would fly, more people, more international visitors. Now it's a lot more local visitors. I ran into a lot of fellow explorers in Vegas, and when I asked them where they were from, most of them were from some part of California. I did run into a couple from New Zealand, Kansas City, a few faraway places, but a lot of Californians in Vegas right now, really filling up the parking garages. Like I said, I've never seen them busier than now, and we'll get to even how busy they were by the end of our stay on Thanksgiving when it got really busy. In fact, the parking garage is so busy, you got to pay, right, to many of these hotels, and there were long lines to exit the parking garages, people just trying to pay to get out of the Bellagio garage. Now, the Bellagio itself, Center Strip, was packed at 9 p.m. on a Monday night. We tried to do the mobile check-in because they have mobile check-in now, and my phone would nag me and do mobile check-in, and so I tried it, and then I went to one of the kiosks to print our room keys, and of course it didn't work. I had a reservation for 2 rooms, and under the same name in one reservation. And of course, their mobile check-in just like completely doesn't support 2 rooms. So if you're booking 2 rooms on one reservation at MGM hotels, know that the mobile check-in won't work for you and you got to go stand in line. The good news is by 9 p.m. there was 0 line to check in, and so I just walked right up to the front desk. Now, the room itself, right here, we stayed in one of the newly renovated 2 queen bedrooms up on the 20th something floor. Room was very nice. It was also great to see that they were back to daily housekeeping, not as an option or a question or something you have to opt into, but just daily housekeeping as part of the stay, as it should be. I will say, though, that the housekeeping was a little bit inconsistent. Like, we'd get different amenities on different days, like some days bottles of water, other days not bottles of water. We did find there was like a lot less physical items in the room, no like magazine, no map of the property, not even a price list for the minibar. There was a fully stocked minibar, which, by the way, if you have a small child, you'll know that's not the best thing in the world in Vegas because they're all like weight censored, and if somebody touches it, then you get charged for it. I called the front desk to be like, hey, is it possible to get somebody to like empty this mini bar? And they were like, sure, you just need to pay $50 for the privilege of having somebody empty it. And I was like, in that case, never mind, we'll just, really blockade the mini bar ourselves. Staying in Vegas before, it's like during the pandemic, I'd say the hotels were pretty quiet. The hallways are pretty quiet. The hallways are now back to noisy with people walking down them at 1 or 2 a.m. coming back to their rooms like it's party time. Security was posted at the elevators at the Bellagio on some random basis. They'd have a sign to say, be prepared to show your room key. They were there sometimes, and sometimes they weren't. We went to just the coffee shop down in the Bellagio for breakfast at our first morning. And if you watched my video on costs for Vegas, you'll know that this breakfast cost us $38 for 2 Italian donuts, 2 cappuccinos, and 1 yogurt parfait. Ooh, and I had to stand in quite a long line of like probably 15 minutes to get this coffee. I originally went over to the Bellagio patisserie, which used to be Jean-Philippe or the Philippe pastry. Maybe I got that name wrong, but it's the one off the lobby that has the world's largest chocolate fountain. And I loved that bakery in the Bellagio because they always had delicious pastries. And I got there in the morning and there were 0 of their like fancy cake pastries. Instead, they primarily seemed to be selling crepes and croissants, but none of their fancy cakes, which was really a huge disappointment. And so I didn't want to wait in that even longer line. So I went to Palio, just kind of like a random coffee shop in the hotel, and got the quick donuts for not very cheap. The pool at the Bellagio was open. Probably some parts of it. About half of the pool was open. About half of the pool was closed for the season, but plenty of people were enjoying the pool. The bar at the pool was open. The restaurant and cafe at the pool was not open and under construction. One of the things that I found interesting, and a little bit of a story here as a YouTuber, as I walk around things, and I made a Bellagio review. It's not edited. You can't see it yet because it's not out yet, but it will be soon. I'm walking around the pool, and I'm going to like the very far section of it that's like all closed. But they didn't have the path closed off. They just had signs that said like this, pool's closed, and I'm walking down there. And somebody comes up to me, then they're wearing like workout clothes, and they're like, hey, do you need help finding something? And I'm like, yeah, I'm looking for the fitness center. And she says to me like, oh, I'll take you there. And it turns out she was one of the managers at the Bellagio that happened to be going for like a run on the Strip that day, and walked in just to kind of like check on her people for a little while, and was like, hey, I'll take you there. And I found out that, how many people do you think work at the Bellagio? Here's the question. How many people work at the Bellagio? 6,500 employees work at the Bellagio Hotel. That is crazy. That is an astounding number of people that it takes to make one of these Strip hotels function. But it was super cool that she went out of her way to take me up to the fitness center, elevator, different rooms, things like that. And I think it's often, nice people like that are even in high-level management positions on their off day to help out guests that make nice hotels even nicer. One of the things I found really a big difference this time compared to almost any other time I've been to Vegas is just the amount of construction that's ongoing on the Las Vegas Strip. I think the pandemic really closed a lot of places, made a lot of places worthless, and so a lot of investors have bought up things and just shuttered them, and they're holding on to them to do further construction later, or they've demolished them and fenced them around. But there are a lot of things on the Strip that are just closed. It doesn't look like anything's happening to them at the moment. And there's a lot of new projects that are breaking ground. In particular, you'll see more of that in my What's New in Las Vegas in 2023 video that'll be coming out in a week or two here. One of the things that's been a pandemic trend that continues now is more security at the hotels. And when I say at the hotels, casino hotels have always had a lot of security, but now they have a lot of security standing at the entrance to the hotels. And you know what? They were always there before. They were just hiding so you couldn't see them. Now they stand very prominently, like at podiums. In particular, at the Cosmopolitan Hotel, they've got people standing at podiums at the front entrance, basically looking at everybody that comes into the hotel. The other hotel that had a lot of security, Planet Hollywood had a lot of security, Bally's had a lot of security, just a lot of security guards standing around at the entrances. I think due to the much larger vagrant population that hangs around the Strip now, the homeless population has really gotten out of control, and it's something that increased during the pandemic. And, I thought the last time I was there, because there weren't many people there weren't many tourists there, I'm like, oh, there's just a lot of kind of vagrants around the Strip because, well, there aren't many tourists, but now there's a lot of tourists, and they're still there. And they're now in the hotels. I was eating at the Earl of Sandwich at Planet Hollywood, and there's someone who's clearly mentally ill that needs some help, 5 feet from me eating my sandwich, that normally they would have either not come into the casino, they would have been kept out of the casino. Now they're inside too. And obviously the security is there to help make sure they don't do anything super crazy. Marge on the live stream says, I appreciate seeing security. For sure, I think it's great to have more security. It's just one of those to be like, why do they need to have it now? Obviously, more security, I guess you could say, is always better, maybe. However, I have a funny story about security at Enchant at Resorts World, which was the Christmas light show that we went to, and I'll talk to that as we get to that section of this video. Art says, are people wearing face masks? I would say so there's no face mask requirement currently in Las Vegas to do any of the Strip stuff. About 10% of the people were wearing face masks. I would see probably more of the employees who were just kind of like hanging out all the time wearing face masks, but there was a certain percentage of visitors that were wearing face masks as well. I probably saw them more in elevators and on casino floors, and then very few people like outside at this point wearing masks. Donaldo was just in Vegas and said, yes, there was so much construction, especially by Cromwell. For sure, everything seems to be under construction right now. Joe says, we watched a homeless person attack a woman walking right in front of Bally's. Yeah, I think now you have to be really careful and really pay attention when you're walking around on the Strip that you didn't really have to before, because all you had to worry about were the nightclub salespeople, the timeshare salespeople, and the porn card slappers. But now you definitely have to worry about some of the mentally ill people that are out there. Colin's joined the live stream. Welcome, Colin. And Miss Clay says, I'm not sure if this is related to extra security, but I got wanded at the Comedy Cellar. I think it is, and I think there are more places that are doing metal detectors and bag checks, which is what we experienced when we went to Enchant at Resorts World, the Christmas light thing. Like, they had metal detectors and bag checks to go look at Christmas lights that would have never been a thing 3 years ago. So definitely do pay attention to those bag checks and those security things. And then my funny story about the security check at Enchant at Resorts World was I was carrying a large gimbal and my Sony a7S III camera in my backpack. And when I opened up my backpack, the security person asked me, like, what's this? And I say, it's a camera. And she's like, oh, I don't know that you can bring in a camera like that. I'm like, just a camera, why not? And then she calls over the management to be like, can he bring in a camera like that? And they're like, yeah. And then I went in. She's probably does security for concert venues or something like that, where they don't want you bringing in cameras. But it was just a funny exchange to see if I could actually bring in a camera to a Christmas light venue. Art asks, how often do you get recognized? Chris, more often in Vegas than any other place. In Vegas, quite a bit. The Yellow Productions crew was out in full force in Vegas, on any given day, 5 or 10 times in Vegas. And in places where I've made videos, a lot. In other places, a lot less. But I always love when people see me and they say, hey. And by the way, if you do see me and say, hey, now I've got some fancy Yellow Productions crew stickers. So anybody who finds me, come up, say, hey, and assuming I haven't given them all out for the day, you will get a sticker too. All right. So in the gambling trend department, one of the new machines that's making the rounds at the hotels is called Go-Go Claw. And if you watched my What's Vegas Cost Right Now video, you saw me talk about this one a little bit, but this is a really interesting game and also a really deceptive game. So I'm going to make this big for a moment so that you can really see it. And it basically looks like one of those crane games that are arcades that you pick up stuffed animals, except this one, you pick up these little balls, and the balls, when you, it's $5 per play to play this, and you put in your money and you push the button, and then you have 30 seconds to use the joystick, and you move this claw around, and then it generates some value and says all the balls now are worth $25, $40, $3,000, whatever the number is, and if you pick up one of those balls, ostensibly you win. Well, it turns out there's no skill involved in this game at all, because there's just basically a luck engine in there like any slot machine, and at the time you push the button, it decides whether you've won or not. And if you go and pick up a ball, because you skillfully put it there, the luck engine had already decided whether you've won or not. And if you didn't win, the claw will come up and then drop it before it gets to the thing. And if you did win, then it'll let you go again. It'll let you go again, and if you don't pick one up after some set amount of times, it will just decide that you've won and generate that for you. Because this is something that obviously a lot of kids want to play, they have a little plaque on the machine itself that says you must be over 21 to play this game. So obviously they're just appealing to the kid in all of us. Art says prefer card games to slot machines, and Cal asks if I put my player's card in. I sure did, because I want to get some credit from the casinos so that they know I was there gambling, so I get some better deals and better offers later. Thulsu says, I saw the Go-Go Claw at an MGM property. You'll find it at others. I also saw downtown at the D, and a couple others that are downtown as well. Okay. So, Earl of Sandwich. My favorite place to eat in Vegas for sandwiches is at the Earl of Sandwich. Their slogan is the best hot sandwich in the world, and I think it's a really good hot sandwich. I generally make a pilgrimage to the Earl of Sandwich every trip to Vegas. I haven't lately because there previously was an Earl of Sandwich at Downtown Disney. That one's closed now for a while. Hopefully it'll come back again. So I got to get my Earl of Sandwich fix when I'm in Vegas. And a little disappointing because it took a long time for me to get my sandwich. Why? Because they don't have the same amount of staff that they used to have. They used to have an order taker and then someone that you paid at a cash register. So the work of taking your order was divided amongst two people. One person who takes your order, a second person that you pay. But I think because they can't hire staff, the person who you normally take your order, that position wasn't there, and everybody just had to line up for the same person who takes your order and pay. And then the people who were working there were wearing t-shirts or sweaters from other Caesars hotels. It was like they called them up from other jobs to be like, hey, I know you work at this other Caesars property, but can you come work at the Earl Sandwich at Planet Hollywood today? Because we don't actually have any people to work here. Thulsu says that's a lot of bread on the sandwich. The bun is really big, but kind of Earl of Sandwich's big thing is their buns, when they get them in the store, they're half-baked, and then they bake them all the way when you order your sandwich, and so the hot toasty bun is a big part of the experience. This is the holiday turkey sandwich, so this one has turkey, stuffing, cranberry sauce. It's really quite good. I also like the Earl's Club as well. Art asks if the Gordon Ramsay's restaurant is still in Paris. There's a gazillion Gordon Ramsay restaurants, yeah. So if you like celebrity chef restaurants, you'll be happy to know celebrity chef restaurants are like definitely on the uptrend in Vegas. Edward says there's also another Earl of Sandwich at the Palms for sure. And Yuri says, I think you would need to spend between $15 and $20 per person per meal. Would you agree? I agree. That's kind of like the Strip pricing for meals is definitely that. This Earl of Sandwich meal cost me $15. And that's one of the cheaper places to eat on the Strip. If you want to know the cheapest place to eat, I do have a whole video about the cheapest eats on the Las Vegas Strip. You can get like $2.99 hot dogs at the Casino Royale. You can get like $2 or $3 tacos from Tacos El Gordo that's down by the Wynn and the Encore. So there are some really cheap things, but if you're eating in the main Center Strip properties, you're not going out of your way to find cheap eats, then yes, allocate, $15 to $25. Thulsu says, hey, I'm bringing a car. Where should I go off the Strip? You could go to Hoover Dam. It's cool off the Strip. You go to Red Rock Canyon if you like to hike. Those are two at the top of my list. All right. Now, related to all the construction and rebranding that's going on right now, there have been a lot of hotels that have changed hands. And so changed hands, changed owners, changing names. But in particular, one that's very noticeable right now is this hotel right now. What is this hotel? That sign used to say Bally's. Right now it says nothing because Bally's is in mid rebrand to Horseshoe Hotel. And so like right now you go to Bally's and half the signs say Bally's, half the signs say Horseshoes, and half the signs say nothing, just like this. And it's really kind of like a complicated reason why Bally's is being renamed to Horseshoe. And so I won't go like into all the details because that's probably its own video of itself about complicated corporate structures in Vegas. But the 30-second version of it is that Bally's is owned by Caesars Entertainment that owns Caesars Palace. Caesars has the rights to the name Bally's, but the company that actually has the name Bally's Corporation just bought the Tropicana, and so Bally's company wants to rename the Tropicana Bally's because that's their name of their company that they've licensed to Caesars, so they're taking it back, so Caesars then has to rename the property that they had that's called Bally's. Anyway, same hotel, same management, different name. As they're rebranding it, they're putting some more money into it to be like, look, it's new, even though it turns out it's actually same place. Though what is kind of neat inside, they're making the new Horseshoe, former Bally's, a lot more kid-friendly. They've put in a new video game arcade that you'll see footage of in my What's New 2023 video. They have a glow-in-the-dark mini golf place. So the whole family trend in Vegas is definitely back on the upswing again. For dinner on our first big day in Vegas, we ate at this place called Mott 32, which is a kind of high-end Chinese restaurant from Hong Kong. We went there primarily for the Peking duck because they're known for their Peking duck. They are in the Palazzo Hotel on the casino level, kind of ground floor, and we reserved a table a few weeks ahead of time. And then I read the email, and the email said oh, well, if you want a duck, make sure you call us because, we need to reserve a Peking duck separately from the table. So I call them. They don't answer the phone. So then I email them because they said, hey, if we don't answer, you can email us. So I email them and say hey, I'd like to reserve a Peking duck for our table. And I get a response back that says, Peking ducks are all sold out. But I've put you on the duck waiting list in case somebody cancels their duck. And I'm like, that's strange to have a restaurant that specializes in Peking duck having less ducks than they have tables. And then when we never got our Peking duck, but when we got there on the kind of host or hostess desk, there was a post-it note that said only 25 ducks. So they only have 25 Peking ducks a day. Anyway, this just goes to show right now how important reservations are in Vegas. Apparently not just for your table, but also if you have special food you want to eat, at a place like this, you need to reserve that too. Lame. We hope to go try the duck at Mott 32 another time. But I'm curious if anybody on the live stream or anybody watching the archive, have you had the Peking duck at Mott 32? What do you think? Should we make a pilgrimage back there for that? We enjoyed the rest of the food that we had there, so we think it'd probably be good. And yeah, Art says supply chains suck at the moment. Yeah, that's probably it. They probably just can only get 25 ducks from their vendors, and that probably makes sense. Art says, yeah, duck problems, lol. Art says, why aren't there more Asian tourists in Vegas? Do they all go to Macau? So that was a big difference this time from any time before the pandemic. The Chinese tourists in particular have not returned to Vegas. Like, there used to be tons of Chinese tour groups on buses going around in big groups. They're not there. I think they can't leave China with all the lockdowns, things like that. So that's why they're not there. I think like Macau is mostly Chinese tourists instead of people from across Asia. But I mean, people from the Asian countries definitely do like Vegas, but people from a lot of the Asian countries still haven't really resumed their big traveling yet. Art says, I've had the goose in Hong Kong. The goose from Mott 32 or the goose from a different restaurant in Hong Kong? And Jeff gives a little history that says the Horseshoe originally opened as the MGM Grand. Yeah, there's a lot of these, like, it started as this, it went with this, it got renamed as this, then they bring the name back. So thank you for that little history, Jeff. All right. Oh, and so what was also interesting when we went to Mott 32, it's at the Palazzo, we went to park in the parking garage, and the Palazzo has a massive parking garage. It is a huge parking garage. Free parking at the Palazzo and the Venetian, but we had to drive around like 15 minutes to look for a parking space in the Palazzo parking garage. We went to the lowest possible level all the way in the corner and found one parking space. I have never been to that parking garage when it was as busy as it was this time, back to the point of so many more people bringing their cars to Vegas than ever before and filling up all of the parking spaces. And now you might think valet parking, oh, Chris, why don't you valet park your car if the self-parking's full? We'll get to that in a moment. Art asks if the parking security is good. Hard to say. You know, I didn't see a lot of security in the parking garage, but the Palazzo and the Venetian, they are parking garages where they have security guards that stand at the entrance to the garage and basically like flag every car in. So they do have security out there. I know that when Resorts World opened, cars getting broken into was a big issue at Resorts World. Like the Points guy, one of like the big blogs for travel credit cards, they sent some people to Resorts World, like review the rooms, and they had their stuff stolen from their car while they were there at the opening of Resorts World. It may be better now at Resorts World, I don't know, but those were certainly issues before. And Jay says, Jay ate at Mott 32. Like the appetizers, the mains were disappointing, didn't get to try the duck. All right, thanks for that perspective. Sean asks, is Macau better for Chinese than Vegas? Briefly on Macau, and then I'll get back to what Vegas is like now. Briefly, Macau, I have a whole video on Macau, so you could go like type in Macau Yellow Productions, but Macau is for people who like really want to go for like a day or two or three of like intense gambling, like the kind of thing to be like, I'm going to get at the table and I'm not going to leave for 15 hours because I'm definitely going to win some money here or lose some money here. So that's kind of like Macau's really focused on the gaming, where Vegas has really become the destination that has a lot of great food and entertainment and shopping and all that stuff, where Macau has those things, but not nearly as much as it's focused on hardcore gambling. Edward says, I got my window busted in the Oyo during Super Bowl. Oh, that's a bummer, Edward. I'm sorry to hear that. Hopefully they didn't get too much stuff out of your car, but having a window broken is always annoying because you got to fix it and replace all the broken glass. All right. So then we went over to Area 15, and Area 15 was packed. Area 15 is the new, like, kind of like immersive mall experience in Vegas. It's not on the Strip. It's across the Interstate 15, kind of like back behind the Trump Tower or the Fashion Show Mall. And a lot of people don't know you can go into the central area of Area 15 for free. We spent like an hour kind of wandering around there, which was a lot of fun. When I was in Vegas this time last year, in the parking lot of Area 15, I think there were like 20 cars total. It was not very busy at all. Now the parking lot was like packed out, front, back, sides. There were a lot of people at Area 15. So I'm really happy to see that they're doing well and that they've got a lot of people. Omega Mart didn't seem to have any long lines. Seemed like you could just kind of walk in there. But Area 15 is hopping, which is good. But things still aren't back to their full hours. One of the things that was always great about Vegas is it was like a 24-hour town. But back to the Palazzo and the Grand Canal shops, they don't stay open all that late at all anymore. They had signs that say, you know, we're still running on modified closing hours, that the Grand Canal shops at the Venetian and the Palazzo now close at 9 p.m. So if you're going to Vegas to, you know, party till the wee hours of the night, 9 p.m. Might be when your party ends in a lot of places. Obviously, the casinos are all night, but a lot of the other shops and restaurants are closing a lot earlier. Another place that was buzzing was Caesar's Palace. We went to Caesar's Palace to have the Bacchanal buffet, which many people regard as the best buffet in Vegas right now. It is definitely one of the most expensive buffets in Vegas now. For brunch, it was $60-some a person. Great news is kids under 4 eat for free. So Spunky Princess had all the ice cream she could eat, which she loved. We had to make reservations to eat at the Bacchanal about 2 months in advance to get any reasonable times to eat. What I mean by reasonable, something around noon or something around 6. We ate at noon. You know, when we were looking for, and we ate there on Tuesday. On Wednesday, like the day before Thanksgiving, there were no reasonable times to eat 2 months out. So if you do want to eat at some of Vegas's best buffets, in particular, the one at Caesar's Palace, the one at the Wynn, and the one at the Cosmopolitan, they all take reservations. Make sure you make them 1 or 2 months in advance. Otherwise, you might be left out cold, or you might be eating at like 9 or 10 p.m. Art says, I ate at that buffet, didn't eat again, spent 4 hours eating there. Very memorable. You know, Art probably broke the bank for them on sitting at the table for too long. Now they have a time limit. They tell you you have 90 minutes to eat, and then we need the table back. So also be prepared for that as well. If you were thinking like, hey, I'm going to get there, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to wait for them to switch over from brunch to dinner, I'm going to be here for like 3 hours to camp out. You don't have that much time. They want you in and out so they can put more people in the seats. Norma says, what are you drinking, Mr. Rainey? That's a great question. Today I am drinking some Alishan Oolong tea from Loose Leaf Tea, and it's about time for me to take a drink of this right here, which is pretty good. By the way, if you're on the live stream and you're enjoying this video, the 361 of you, please give it a like. It really helps out me because it lets the YouTube algorithm know that you like this video so they can share the video with more people. And if you're watching the archive, please do the same because it'll help the archive of this video spread. It's currently 98 likes on the live stream. I'd love to get that up to at least 150. That would be fantastic. Now, the buffet was humming again. It seemed to be humming along like pre-2020 times, except with reservations. There were no weird safety protocols. You could get your food yourself. So I was quite happy to be back at a Vegas buffet again. Really, buffets are definitely a Vegas tradition for us, though we can only do one buffet per trip because it's just so much food. We went to the Neon Museum, which was a lot of fun. And the Neon Museum, pretty much the whole thing's outside. They still had some of their signs up that said, please stay 6 feet apart. And the person who checked us in at the Neon Museum was wearing a mask. So somebody asked how many people are wearing masks. The person checking us in was wearing a mask. He's inside, I guess. He felt better if he wore it in there. But it's funny that they still have yet to take down their signs that say, please stay 6 feet apart. There's a lot of places that are like that. That just like, I don't know, we put up the sign, so we'll just go ahead and leave it there. It seemed like nobody was really paying attention to that, though. But it's also, there weren't that many people there, so it was, you know, not like we were all packed in together to look at the neon signs. Kathy said, wanted to go there but missed out. Kathy, was that because you wanted to get a ticket but they were all sold out, or you just ran out of time or you didn't go? This is the first time I've been to the Neon Museum. I've wanted to go on previous trips, but I've like waited too long to get my tickets, and they've sold out for tickets. They have a fairly small parking lot. Their parking lot only parks like 20 or 30 cars, and so I think that's one of the reasons why the tickets are fairly limited. JT says $80 is way too much for a buffet. I prefer the one at the Bellagio using a My Vegas reward. 2 people for brunch for $40. Can't beat that. Hey, that's a good tip as well. I like the Wicked Spoon at Cosmopolitan. That's probably my go-to for like price value because it's a little less than Caesar's. but we wanted to. I haven't eaten at the Back and Al buffet in a while, and so we really wanted to get in and give that one a try. Kaiser asks if there are still real showgirls in Vegas. I mean, real ones, not the fake ones on the sidewalk. I don't think so. I think all the real showgirl shows have ended, gone the way of the dodo. There are still a lot of the fake ones on the sidewalks. They are out back in full force again, just like the nightclub promoters. What I didn't see all that much on this trip were the porn card slappers. By that, the escorts and things like that. And maybe because we weren't out walking too late, or, it's a more family friendly coming Thanksgiving week or things like that. I don't know. But I didn't get handed a single card from one of those slappers walking around this time. Remy asks, are there any resorts that have gone smoke-free? Park MGM was the first one to do that. I think it's still the first one to do that. Nobody else has, jumped into the we're going to go entirely smoke-free, but a number of casinos are making larger portions of their floor smoke-free, including the Plaza, which is creating a whole separate space that's smoke-free to really make a less smoky environment. Justin Time says, yeah, they're all there with their families, the porn card slappers, I guess. By the way, I see 156 likes, so thank you to everybody who hit that like button, the Yellow Productions crew, and I really appreciate it. Art says, are there still people selling water bottles on the street? For sure there are. I think most people that were selling water bottles were selling them on the bridges between hotels. And in particular, I saw more than just water bottles. I saw also cans of beer and things like that in those coolers that they were selling, which is clearly illegal. One of the things Vegas is trying to do is the bridges between hotels, they're trying to, or maybe they did pass a law to consider them crosswalks, to basically be you can't stand in the crosswalk. You can't just hang out on the bridge, playing the 3-card Monty or whatever. Edward says they don't mind cigarettes, but cigars and pipes restrictions to some. All right, thanks for that perspective, Edward. Brandon says, I'm thankful for bigger smoke-free zones. I am too, although I will say the newer the casino, Resorts World, doesn't smell like smoke at all. You can smoke in there, and obviously if you're right next to somebody who's smoking, yeah, you smell the smoke, but generally in Resorts World, you don't smell smoke. Here's an interesting Vegas epiphany or Vegas thing. Because of all the smoke that's there, when I came back, I often bring an extra shirt, extra pair of socks, extra pair of underwear, just in case I'm someplace for an extra day or something like that. And if it's clean, I just, save it for my next trip. But coming back from Vegas, those clean clothes, because they were in the same luggage with the dirty clothes, although separated with a bag for the dirty clothes, they smelled so much of smoke from being next to the dirty clothes that I had to wash the clean clothes too. Anyway, that just goes to show you how much smoke there is in Vegas. All right, then we went over to Resorts World after the Neon Museum for dinner. I was really happy to see the Resorts World food court buzzing and hopping and very, very busy. When I was in Vegas a year ago, I was very concerned for this food court because it was not very busy at all. A lot of people, when it first opened, complained that it was too expensive, which it hasn't gotten cheaper in pricing, but I think a lot of people have discovered that the food is just good and it's quick. It's a Asian-focused food hall. We really liked the Malaysian-style noodles, the Singaporean chicken rice, and in addition to all the seats being packed out, they've also added more tables. So the place got so busy, they needed more tables than they had before. Just going to show they've got good business. M Addict asked if there was a bigger police presence on the Strip. I did not notice a bigger police presence on the Strip. I noticed more security in front of the hotels, but not more police on the Strip itself. I did not make it to Fremont this time. I was at Fremont last time, and the homeless were in full force in Fremont last time. JT asked if I've ever tried Din Tai Fung at the Aria. I have not, JT, because I eat at the one in Costa Mesa, the South Coast Plaza, quite often, or the one down in San Diego. I figure I don't want to waste a Vegas meal on something that I can get fairly close to my house. It's unfortunate to hear that it's not as good as the one here. Fairy says, hey, Chris, we just went to Vegas. We did all the fun stuff, Caesar's Palace, the Wynn, and Hell's Kitchen. My daughters love this vacation. Awesome. That is great to hear, Fairy. Hell's Kitchen, the Gordon Ramsay kind of like showpiece restaurant. So yeah, the celebrity chef restaurants just seem to open more and more and keep doing better and better in Vegas. Okay, so then we went to Enchant at Resorts World, which is this big Christmas light show. I already talked you through my interesting security incident that we had to go through metal detectors. They're like these new style metal detectors where it's not like a walkthrough and it wasn't a wand, but it's like a pole. It's like a single pole, and you walk by that single pole, and if the red light comes on, then they, go through you more. In my case, I had just a large bag, and so they wanted to look in my large bag, and they were like, that camera and that gimbal, we're not sure if you can bring that in here. Anyway, luckily their management said it was okay, and so if you watch that Enchant at Resorts World video, that was because I did finally get past the security guard to bring my camera in. MT says, is Enchant a one-time thing, or will it happen every Christmas season? I think it happens every Christmas season. I was talking to somebody who said they went to one in Vegas last year that was at like a stadium in Vegas. There's like a second one in Vegas. This is the first time it's been at Resorts World. I think it's doing well, so I'd imagine it would come back. But it's on a piece of the Resorts World property that I'm sure they're going to develop into something else. So it was supposed to be like the pool, like the water park or pool complex for Resorts World. Whether or not they're actually going to do that, I don't know. But yeah, I'd be on the lookout for it next year too. Most of these holiday light things, because they charge $40 to go in, it's not cheap. I'm sure they make good money from it, so I'm sure if it does well, they want to bring it back. And by all accounts, when we were there, it seemed to be quite a success. And they charge different. Nico says, how much does it cost to go in? Like somewhere between $40 and $50. It depends on the day, the time, peak day, weekend, senior, adult, yada yada yada. Not cheap, but cheaper than seeing the Blue Man Group or something like that. Okay, traffic going down the Strip. When we were driving back to the Bellagio from Resorts World on the Wednesday night before Thanksgiving, the Strip traffic was back as good as ever. And by good as ever, I mean as busy as ever. It was like the good old days of the cars just kind of like inching along ever so slowly. To get from this spot that I took this picture, which is like right in front of Caesar's Palace, into the Bellagio property, ostensibly where we'd enter the self-parking garage, probably took 15 minutes. So that's like people were walking faster than we were driving our car. And then we got to the Bellagio parking garage, and it was full. And by full, I don't mean like busy. By full, I mean 0 parking spaces available. What do you do when there's 0 parking spaces available? Well, then you go valet park your car. So then we had to wait like 20 minutes to valet park our cars because nobody can self-park. Everybody's got a valet park, and they didn't have that many valet parkers. Luckily, I'm an M Life Gold, and a lot of people on my video that I made about the cost of Vegas asked, Chris, where do you get your M Life Gold from? Is it from gambling? Is it from a credit card? I'm an M Life Gold from my Hyatt status that I match to M Life. Hyatt and MGM have partnerships, and so if you have Hyatt status, you can match to M Life status. If you have M Life status, you can match to Hyatt status. So that's how I have the M Life Gold. Now, okay, 20 minutes to valet park the car. Well, then we had to do it on the flip side. When we checked out the next day, we had to get our car back from the valet, which took like a good 30 minutes to get our car back. One of the things in Vegas now is that like you can't call down to request your car. They give you a ticket that has a barcode on it, and you have to bring it to a kiosk where you scan it, which is down at the valet area, which then means you got to wait there. Well, I guess you don't have to. You could go scan it, and then you could go back and play some slots, and then come back and see if your car is out, but you can't call from your room downstairs to have them go get your car and kind of wait out that time when you're not down there. JT gives a pro tip to say if you're a military or veteran, you also get automatic gold stats with MGM and Pearl with Caesars, maybe, is what that was going to say. And Brooklyn says Amex Platinum also gives you Pearl status and free parking. All right, thanks for that tip, Brooklyn. Joe. James says traffic is bad. Gotta learn how to take the side streets. Indeed, but you know, just because it's bad, if you're doing it once on a trip, it's not the worst thing in the world because you get to enjoy the lights. And you know, Spunky Princess, our 2-year-old, sitting in the back, and so we're like, hey, look at the fountain, look at this, look at that. She enjoyed the slow roll down the strip. Some of the things that haven't changed on the strip is the strip escalators that go to the bridges that cross the street. They're still as broken as ever. I think a full half of the strip escalators were broken. When we were at the intersection with of the Las Vegas Strip and Flamingo, there's like 3 or 4 bridges. Literally, I looked at every single escalator, and of the 2 escalators, one was broken on every one of them. He was either up or down that was broken and not working. And half the elevators are broken too, which really is kind of frustrating, particularly if you're pushing a stroller around the strip, or if you're in a wheelchair or you're in a scooter and the escalators don't work. That makes it just a lot harder to navigate. I really wish Vegas would fix that. The Bellagio fountains were going. The Mirage Volcano was still erupting. And boy, Wednesday night, like, the traffic was out, the people were out. The number of people felt like the good old times, although the rest of the infrastructure to support it didn't. Valet parking, parking lots, etc., etc. We drove back to Orange County like Thanksgiving afternoon, like 2-ish p.m., clear sailing back to LA, no traffic, because most people don't drive on Thanksgiving Day because they're actually hanging around and eating. Art says, I stayed at the MGM, $80 per night like a decade ago. Was cheap at the time, probably spent more in total than I would today. JJ says, do you feel you got equal value for the amount of money you spent? You know, for us, because it was this nation that we didn't have to fly to, and so all of our expenses were just in the hotel and in the food, I think so. We spent $2,500 on 5 people in 3 days, and I think we had a really great amount of time for that. You know, when we went to Whistler in Canada, where we had to fly and we had to rent a really expensive car because our rental car in Canada was like over $1,000, you know, that trip to Vancouver for 5 people was more like $8,000 in Whistler, like a high-end ski town. And so $2,500 in Vegas seems like a bargain compared to that. And so I say it's an expensive destination. Like, cheap Vegas is gone, but you know, if you're nearby and you don't have to fly, then it's still not as expensive as a New York City or a Paris or places like that. So we had a super great time in Vegas, despite all these things. You know, I mean, waiting around 30 minutes for your rental car, not great, but you know, Chris also has just a happy, cheery disposition, so I don't let it get to me either. Yeah, I'll make that bigger. This was the mob of people waiting to get their car at the Bellagio Valet. This was the view from our room, looking out at Caesar's Palace and the Rio. And right here, I just wanted to share this because I think this is the coolest bathroom on the Las Vegas Strip. This is the bathroom in the Resorts World food court. Is it weird to take a selfie in a bathroom? Sure, it's weird to take a selfie in a bathroom. But how many bathrooms do you see that have like green doors like that and mirrored balls? And so if you go to Resorts World, definitely check out the bathroom in the food court. Before we do Q&A, I have just a few announcements coming up from Yellow Productions here in the future. One is that December is going to be Vlogmas. Vlogmas, a lot of YouTubers do this where they publish a video every December, so I'm going to try the same thing. Why? Because I have a lot of videos in my backlog, things that I shot in Japan, blooper videos, walking tours that I've done, and some of them I've been waiting for the right time to release them, and it seems like there's never a right time, and so I'm just going to be clearing out the backlog of things in December. They're all good videos. December 1st is going to start with the Yellow Productions blooper video, and you can expect a new video for at least the first 15 days of December, maybe more if I've got more videos edited and things like that through there. So, you know, come back to YouTube and click that Yellow Productions channel every day in December for a fun new video. And then finally, it was super great to see the Yellow Productions crew in full force in Vegas. Anybody who saw me, thanks. It was great to see all of you, chat with you. Anybody who took a selfie with me, if you want to share it with the rest of the world, send it to me. I'll post it up on the Yellow Productions community page. I always love seeing the pictures that people take of me and with me too.
Fellow explorers, it is now Q&A time. If you've got a question, I've got an answer.
All right, fellow explorers, that's what it's like in Vegas right now. What questions do you have? If you're on the live stream, ask me a question. If you're watching the archive, ask me a question, and I'll answer it a little bit later when I get to it. David leads off with a comment saying Vegas started going downhill when the corporations started building mega resorts. I have a series that I'm planning to do called How Vegas Was Built by the Mob, the Mormons, and MBAs, businesses. Each one's going to be kind of like a separate mini video diving into each one of those, but I'll be talking a little bit about how the corporations really got into those mega resorts. Art says, Vegas, Reno, Atlantic City. I have never been to Reno or Atlantic City, so I'm just going to go ahead and say I think Vegas is the greater. Matthew says, have you stayed at Vdara? I have not stayed at Vdara. I did meet some fellow explorers out in the Strip that said they enjoyed it, but they found the self-parking at Vdara challenging. Any plans for Vegas buffets? We recently ate at the Bacchanal. I don't know, do you mean am I going to eat at more Vegas buffets or do more buffet videos? Maybe. JT says, nice to meet you at the Cheesecake Factory. Thanks for chatting with me. JT, I apologize. I never posted the picture that you sent me. I'm going to go dig that out and post it up real soon now. James asked if the weed smell bothered you. You know, on this trip, I didn't smell a lot of it. But that doesn't mean it's not there and it doesn't exist. And it doesn't mean that weed smell doesn't bother me. I am not a weed smoker, and so I don't love the smell of it. But I didn't find it overpowering this time. Derek says, I love your video. Keep up the video I use whenever I travel. Awesome, Derek. Thank you. Art says, good New York pizza in Vegas. I really like the pizza from the New York hotel. It's called Sirocco, something like that. I like their Sicilian thick pizzas, but they've also got good New York pizza too. Michael seconds that one and says, or peanut pizza as well. Art says, can I sponsor a trip for you to go to Vegas and eat one buffet a day? We'll have to talk about that, Art. I don't know. I might gain like 50 pounds if I do that. Andrea says, has the quality of the Cirque du Soleil fallen like it has in other places? We've had a couple in Atlanta and the quality's not been what it's used to be. Andrea, I've not been back into any Cirque shows lately. I'm making an uneducated answer, which is I could imagine probably yes, just because everybody's out of practice, right? They weren't doing them for 2 years, and so the quality of almost anything that requires trained people around the world, I feel like, has fallen. Ross says, is the Link High Roller worth it? It's a really expensive observation wheel, but if you want to see the view, sure, it's worth it. Dale says, any suggestions for breakfast in downtown Vegas? I'm not a huge breakfast eater. I generally just get like some yogurt or things like that from the ABC store and then eat it back in my room. Alex says, what's the best non-In-N-Out burger in Vegas? I think Shake Shack is the best non-In-N-Out burger in Vegas over at the New York hotel. Grant asks, I've been to New Zealand. Not yet. I would like to go to New Zealand. I've been to Australia a few times, but never to see their Kiwi neighbors over there. Art says, good stand-up comedy in Vegas. You know what? The Mirage seems to be like the place that a lot of the traveling comedians go. Jay Leno always plays there, so I would just look for like the big comedians that come to Vegas personally. Chris says, have they begun the process of turning the Mirage into the Hard Rock Hotel? Not really yet. Right now it all still sells Mirage, this and that. The transition will be like fully complete, at least like company-wise, management-wise, in December here, that they're going to like really finalize that. So I'd expect to see that over the next few months, but it hasn't happened yet. JT says, do you know why Circa in Fremont is a 21 and over casino other than alcohol? I didn't see any topless women walking around, so why do you have to be 21 to enter? Right, so 2 comments. One about topless women walking around. In Macau, you will see that around the casinos, and just as an interesting cultural point. But 2, is, I think the reason why Circa is 21 and up, and then what's the other hotel, El Cortez, just went 21 and up, because there are so many vagrants and homeless around Fremont and downtown that they want to keep them out. And so in order to get into the Circa, you have to show your ID to get in, and they know those people don't have it, can't show it, and so that's why they're 21 and up. That is my hypothesis. I know nothing else other than just why would you want to do this? Why does it make sense? Because I don't think kids bother them all that much. Art asks if Vegas is a good destination for young children. We had a good time with the Spunky Princess, our 2-year-old daughter. I think she enjoyed it as well. We brought a stroller with us that we pushed around one of the days. The other days, I just had her plopped on my shoulders. We had a rental car for when we did some of the farther things, like to go to the Palazzo. I say we should have a car because we drove from Southern California, so that we could go to the Palazzo or so that we could go to Area 15. So we didn't find the walking an issue, but then again, I can easily just put her on my shoulder and go anywhere. We only were chased away once when we were in the Palazzo after we ate at Mott 32. The Spunky Princess wanted to go look at some art on some wall over there, and so I walked across the slot machine area with her to go see it, and a security guard came over to be like, no children in the gaming area. I'm like, okay, man, whatever. Do you have a lot of 2-year-olds that are playing slot machines? But there was no other casino that was like, you can't be here, you can't do this, why is your daughter here? So Vegas does focus on that. Art says, are there any indoor play areas for young kids in Vegas? Not really like playgrounds, if that's what you mean. Though I think there's a lot of video game arcades in the casinos, and then at Circus, they have a whole indoor amusement park. So that's probably the closest to indoor kids area. Cleed says, what's your thoughts at Area 15? I love Area 15. I think it's like the newest cool attraction to come to Vegas. I really enjoyed Omega Mart. I went there on my previous trip. I spent 3 hours in there. I could have spent more in there. But I think it's a really cool place, and I'm really happy that they've been successful. James asks, how do you feel about F1 in Vegas? I think it's great to see Vegas hosting more big international sporting events, right? The Super Bowl, F1 racing. When they shut down the Strip for a few days to do F1 and they put up the bleachers and things like that, it's going to be like a nightmare for traffic. But I think it's really good for the city. Seth asks how I got gold status with a match from my Hyatt status. Derek says, what's my favorite restaurant or buffet you would recommend? The buffets I recommend Wicked Spoon at the Cosmopolitan. I recommend the buffet at the Wynn, the Bellagio, and Caesar's Palace. Those are my favorite buffets in Vegas. And restaurants, there's a lot of good restaurants in Vegas, frankly. Mott 32 we ate at this trip was pretty good. If you're looking for high-end French, we really like Bouchon, that is at the Venetian as well. Always April says, how's Planet Hollywood for solo female traveler? I think good. Center Strip, so I think that's a pretty good, safe location. I wouldn't have any issues if OC Girl was staying there by herself. Brooklyn Joe says, when my kids were younger, we went to a casino here in Arizona. The security guard asked me if I knew the rules for kids. I said, yes, they can only gamble with their own money. I think that's a great answer, Joe. Colossal Mind says, you don't like Wicked Spoon. I think I said I liked it. Maybe I rattled them off too quickly. I probably just said the buffet at the Cosmopolitan, which is the Wicked Spoon. So yes, I do like that buffet. Harry says, I've never been to the Resorts World. Do you recommend it? Resorts World, as far as a hotel goes and hotel rooms go, is definitely one of my favorites in Vegas. It has really nice rooms. They're new. They're clean. Everything you could want in a hotel. It's sort of really off the center of the Strip, over there by Circus. It's sort of quiet, and there's not a lot of stuff to walk to. You can walk from there. I stayed there last time I went, and it was great for me by myself. But on this trip with the Spunky Princess, our 2-year-old daughter, we wanted a more central place that we could walk more. It didn't have to drive as much, and so that's why we didn't stay at Resorts World. But we ended up being there twice because we love the food court so much.
Yes, it's the time you've been waiting for. It's time for the giveaway.
All right, fellow explorers, every one of these videos, I always give away some Yellow Productions swag, and today we're giving away a Spunky Princess t-shirt to someone who answers one of my questions correctly. And this is something I talked about earlier. And the question is, how many employees does the Bellagio Hotel have? If you can answer that question correctly, you will win this shirt shipped to you anywhere in the world. And by the way, if you don't win one and you want to buy one or you want to pick one up for your friends for the holidays, just head over to shop.yellow-productions.com. They ship anywhere in the world. And if you wonder, Chris, when is the next live stream? Head over to update.yellow-productions.com. You can sign up for my mailing list, and I will send you an email every time I schedule a live stream so you know when they are so you can join in. All right, I am seeing a lot of answers in the chat, and so let's go ahead and see who the first one was.
And now we have a winner chicken dinner.
Congratulations, Dustin Calkins. You are the first person to say 6,500, which is the correct number for employees at the Bellagio. Send me an email to chris@yellow-productions.com. You'll find it in the description with your address and your size, and I'll get that shirt headed right out to you, Dustin. Second place goes to Amy. Third place goes to Art, but the shirt goes to Dustin. All right, well, fellow explorers, it was a pleasure hanging out with all of y'all today. If you didn't get a chance to like the video, the 400 of you that are here now, please like it. I would really appreciate it. If you're watching the archive, like it too. And as usual, I won't say goodbye because I'm going to see you in one of my next videos. Lots more Vegas videos coming at you, just like Cleopatra.